Dr. Emma Collins rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the data streaming across her computer screen at the Mauna Kea Observatory. Something wasn't right. The numbers from the last 3 weeks showed a pattern that made no sense. Stars across multiple sectors were showing decreased luminosity, and it wasn't just a small change, it was significant enough to be worrying. She took another sip of her now-cold coffee and called out to her assistant. "Hey Mark, can you pull up the Betelgeuse readings from last month? I need to compare something." The young assistant quickly brought up the requested data, and Emma's fears were confirmed. The massive red supergiant was dimming at an alarming rate, far faster than any natural stellar process could explain. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking her calculations. But the numbers didn't lie. Whatever was happening out there, it was spreading. More concerning was the pattern. It was moving in a consistent direction, like a wave crossing the galaxy. Emma reached for her phone and dialed the one person she knew would understand the gravity of the situation. After 3 rings, a gruff voice answered. "Captain Hayes speaking." "Robert, it's Emma. We have a situation here at Mauna Kea. I need you to look at some data, and I need you to do it now." There was a pause on the other end. Captain Robert Hayes of the International Space Fleet had known Emma long enough to recognize when she was truly concerned. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't share this with anyone else yet." While waiting for Hayes, Emma compiled her findings into a simple presentation. The pattern was becoming clearer with each passing minute. Whatever was causing this wasn't natural. It was too ordered, too precise. The observatory's security system announced Hayes' arrival with a soft chime. He strode in, still wearing his Space Fleet uniform, his face serious. "Show me what you found." Emma pulled up the stellar maps on the main display. "Watch this time-lapse from the past 3 weeks." The display showed a visualization of star systems, with dots of varying sizes representing different stars. As the animation played, patches of stars began to dim, creating a visible wave of darkness moving across space. "At first, we thought it was an equipment malfunction," Emma explained, pointing to specific regions. "But we've confirmed the readings with 3 other observatories. Something is literally draining the energy from these stars." Hayes leaned forward, his expression grim. "How long until it reaches our nearest neighboring systems?" "At the current rate, about 6 months to reach Alpha Centauri." Before Hayes could respond, the observatory's alert system blared to life. Mark rushed to the monitoring station. "Dr. Collins, we're picking up something huge entering the solar system." The main screen shifted to show a massive object decelerating near Jupiter's orbit. It was like nothing they had ever seen before. A ship nearly the size of Earth's moon, its surface covered in what appeared to be crystalline structures that sparkled with remnants of starlight. "My God," Hayes whispered, already reaching for his secure communicator. The object came to a complete stop, and for several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, every communication device in the observatory activated simultaneously. A voice, somehow both ancient and clear, spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, we come seeking refuge and bearing a warning. We are the Void Seekers, and we flee from the great darkness that consumes the stars. Your system is next in its path." Emma and Hayes exchanged looks. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and it came with news of an approaching catastrophe. "We have watched your species," the voice continued. "While others look down upon your young civilization, we see your potential. You have achieved in centuries what took others millennia. You have survived and thrived in darkness and adversity. Perhaps you can do what we could not." Hayes stepped forward, taking charge of the situation. "This is Captain Robert Hayes of the International Space Fleet. We're listening." "Captain," the alien voice responded, "your people must prepare. The dark tide approaches, and it hungers for the light of your stars. But where our civilizations faltered in the face of eternal night, we believe humanity might just be stubborn enough to find a way to fight back." Emma looked at the stellar maps again, watching the wave of darkness creep closer to their corner of the galaxy. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for something that had already overwhelmed far more advanced civilizations. But as she glanced at Hayes' determined expression, she felt a spark of hope. If any species could find a way to fight back against the darkness, it would be the ones who had spent their entire history pushing back against the impossible. The first phase of humanity's greatest challenge had begun. The stars were going out, but Earth's defenders were ready to rise to the occasion. The meeting room at Space Fleet Command was packed with military leaders and scientists from around the world. Admiral Diana Foster stood at the front, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, as she pointed to the holographic display showing the Void Seeker's massive ship. "What we learned from our visitors is worse than we thought," she said, her voice steady despite the grave news. "The dark tide isn't just dimming stars. It's consuming them completely. Over 50 advanced civilizations have already fallen." Dr. Emma Collins sat next to Captain Hayes, quickly typing notes on her tablet. The Void Seekers had shared their data about the dark tide, and it painted a terrifying picture. Entire galaxies had gone dark, their civilizations either fleeing or falling back to primitive states without their star's energy. "But there's something interesting," Emma spoke up, standing to face the room. "The dark tide's effect isn't uniform. Some stars resist longer than others, and our sun." She pulled up a new diagram. "Our sun shows unique properties we've never noticed before." The Void Seeker's lead scientist, a tall being named Zura whose crystalline skin sparkled under the room's lights, stepped forward. "Your star has an unusual energy pattern we've never seen before. It's as if it's alive in a way others are not." Admiral Foster nodded. "And that's not all. Show them what we discovered yesterday." Emma changed the display to show a video from one of Earth's deep space probes. It showed a small device generating a field of blue-white energy. Within that field, a tiny artificial star burned steadily, even as the darkness around it grew deeper. "We built this based on old research about containing fusion reactions," Emma explained. "The Void Seekers said it was impossible, but we did it. We created a shield that can protect stellar energy." The room burst into excited whispers. Hayes smiled, remembering how the Void Seekers had been shocked when humans suggested trying to fight back against the dark tide rather than just run from it. "There's more," Admiral Foster continued, silencing the room. "The Void Seekers discovered something about humans that makes us unique. Tell them, Zyra." The crystalline alien stepped forward again. "Your species evolved in a way none of us did. You learned to thrive in darkness. You built civilizations before you mastered light. You work underground, underwater, in the darkest places. The dark tide breaks most species by taking away their light. But you've always known how to push back against the dark." Emma pulled up another display, this one showing brain scans. "Human consciousness generates patterns that actually disrupt the dark tide's energy-draining effect. We don't know why yet, but we're naturally resistant." "Which brings us to our plan," Admiral Foster said firmly. "We're calling it the Guardian Protocol. While other species run, we're going to stand and fight. The space fleet will be converted into a defensive force, using our new shielding technology to protect not just our solar system, but others too." Captain Hayes stood up. "We've already begun installing the shield generators on our ships. The Void Seekers are helping us improve our faster-than-light drives. Within 2 months, we'll be ready to start protecting other star systems. But we need more than just shields," Emma added. "We're working on a way to actually push back against the dark tide. If we can understand how our consciousness disrupts it, we might be able to create a weapon that can hurt it." The room was quiet for a moment as everyone processed this information. Humanity, one of the younger spacefaring races, was preparing to stand against a threat that had toppled ancient civilizations. Admiral Foster walked to the center of the room. "I know this seems impossible. The dark tide has destroyed civilizations thousands of years more advanced than ours. But they all ran. They all gave up. That's not what humans do. We face our challenges. We adapt. We overcome. She looked each person in the room in the eye. We have 4 months before the dark tide reaches Alpha Centauri. In that time, we need to be ready not just to defend our own star, but to help others defend theirs. Humanity is about to become the guardians of light for this galaxy. As the meeting ended, Emma watched through the window as workers attached one of the new shield generators to a space fleet ship. In the distance, the massive Void Seeker ship glittered in the sunlight. Soon, more refugee ships would arrive, seeking protection in Earth's orbit. But unlike other species, humanity wasn't planning to hide. They were preparing to fight back against the darkness itself, and for the first time since the stars began to dim, hope was shining brighter than fear. Earth's orbit had never been so crowded. Massive ships from a dozen different alien species formed a glittering ring around the planet, their designs as varied as the beings who built them. Below them, in a research facility in Houston, engineer Peter Martinez wiped sweat from his forehead as he made final adjustments to his latest invention. "Run the test again," he called out to his team. The massive device in the center of the lab hummed to life, its core glowing with stored stellar energy. This was their 15th attempt at creating a long-term storage system for star power, and this time, the readings looked promising. Energy levels holding steady at 98%. One of his assistants shouted, "No decay in the containment field." Peter allowed himself a small smile. After 3 months of non-stop work, they'd finally done it. This storage system could hold enough energy to power a small city for a year, all captured from just a tiny fraction of the sun's output. His celebration was cut short by an urgent message from Space Fleet Command. The dark tide had just reached Proxima Centauri, 3 months ahead of schedule. Up in orbit, Captain Robert Hayes watched through his ship's viewport as the last refugee fleet from the Proxima system jumped into Earth space. The dark tide was moving faster now, as if it had sensed humanity's preparations and was rushing to stop them. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "Admiral Foster is requesting all fleet commanders for an emergency meeting." In the Space Fleet's main conference room, Admiral Foster stood before a group of both human and alien leaders. Behind her, a large screen showed the darkness spreading across space, with Earth's solar system standing out as one of the few bright spots left in this sector of the galaxy. Thanks to Engineer Martinez's breakthrough, she began, "We can now store enough energy to support multiple refugee fleets. Earth has officially become the last bright harbor for thousands of species." The alien representatives murmured among themselves. One of them, a tall being with iridescent scales, spoke up. "But how long can you sustain this? Your sun is just one star." Peter, who had been called to the meeting, stepped forward. "That's where our second breakthrough comes in." He pulled up diagrams on the main screen. "We've found a way to not just store stellar energy, but to share it between systems. We can use it to power our shield networks across multiple stars." "The math shouldn't work," one of the Void Seeker scientists commented. "The energy requirements are too high." "It works because we're not trying to stop the dark tide completely," Peter explained. "We're using human brainwave patterns to disrupt its feeding process. It's like giving the stars an immune system." Admiral Foster took over again. "We've already set up defense stations around our sun. Now we're ready to extend our protection to other systems. We'll form a defensive line, starting with the closest stars to Earth." Captain Hayes pulled up a tactical display. "We've modified our fleet with the new storage systems and shields. Each ship can now protect a significant area of space. We're calling them light carriers." As if to emphasize the urgency of their plans, a new alert flashed across the screen. Another star system had just gone dark, sending more refugees fleeing toward Earth. But this time, humanity was ready to offer more than just shelter. In orbit, Peter watched from a station window as the first group of light carriers prepared to depart. Each massive ship carried enough stored stellar energy to power their protective fields for months, along with crews trained to maintain the new defense systems. "It's strange," he said to Emma Collins, who stood beside him. "A year ago, We were just starting to explore our own solar system. Now we're becoming guardians for half the galaxy." Emma nodded, checking the latest readings from her tablet. "The refugee ships keep coming. We're registering at least 3 new species arriving every day. They've all heard that Earth is fighting back." Below them, Earth shone bright and blue, its cities gleaming in the darkness. Unlike the fallen worlds of other species, Earth's lights still burned strong. Humans had mastered artificial light centuries ago, and they weren't about to let even a cosmic threat dim their world. As the light carriers jumped away to their assigned positions, Peter thought about how humans had always pushed back against darkness, from the first campfire to the latest stellar shield. Now they were teaching other species to do the same, proving that even in the darkest times, hope could still shine bright. The last line of defense was holding, and humanity was making sure it would stay that way. Dr. Linda Wilson stood in front of her research team at the International Space Station, her eyes bright with excitement. After months of studying the dark tide and its effects, she had made a breakthrough that could change everything. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a holographic display of a dying star. "We've all been thinking about defense, about storing energy, and protecting stars. But what if we could do more? What if we could bring stars back to life?" The room fell silent. Even the alien scientists present stopped their work to listen. One of the Void Seekers floated closer, their crystalline form reflecting the station's lights. "Impossible," the alien said. "Once a star is drained, it cannot be restored. We tried for centuries." Linda smiled and pressed a button on her console. A new image appeared, showing a small artificial star they had created in the lab. As they watched, she introduced what looked like black smoke, a tiny sample of the dark tide they had managed to capture. The star began to dim, just as real stars did. "Now watch this," she said, activating another device. A pulse of energy, modeled after human brain patterns, shot into the dying star. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the star flared back to life, brighter than before. "How?" the Void Seeker asked, moving closer to the display. "We combined Peter Martinez's energy storage technology with what we learned about human consciousness affecting the dark tide," Linda explained. "It's like jump-starting a car battery, but on a stellar scale." Before she could explain further, alarms blared throughout the station. Admiral Foster's voice came over the speakers. "The dark tide has reached Alpha Centauri. All ships to battle stations. This is not a drill." In space, Captain Robert Hayes commanded the lead ship of Earth's defense fleet. Around him, 30 light carriers moved into position, their energy shields already powering up. Through the viewport, he could see the darkness approaching, a wave of pure void that consumed light itself. "All ships, activate your shields," he ordered. "Remember your training. We are the line between light and darkness. We do not bend. We do not break." The battle that followed would be written about in history books across 100 worlds. As the dark tide struck the human defense line, the shields flared brilliant blue. The darkness pushed against them, trying to find weak points, but the human-designed barriers held firm. "Energy levels holding steady," reported Hayes' second-in-command. "The shield network is working." But then something unexpected happened. The dark tide, as if showing intelligence for the first time, changed its attack pattern. It concentrated its force on a single point in the defense line. "Shield failure on Light Carrier 7, came the urgent call. They can't hold." Hayes made a quick decision. "All ships, implement Dr. Wilson's Defiance Protocol. Channel power to Carrier 7's position. Now." The fleet responded instantly. Streams of stored stellar energy, infused with the unique patterns of human consciousness, flowed from ship to ship. When they reached the failing shield, something remarkable happened. The combined energy didn't just strengthen the shield, it pushed back against the darkness. Where the dark tide touched the enhanced energy field, it began to dissipate, like smoke in a strong wind. "It's working." Linda shouted from her observation post on the station. The dark tide is retreating from that sector. For the first time since the crisis began, humanity had done more than just defend. They had pushed the darkness back. The dark tide withdrew from Alpha Centauri, leaving the star battered but alive. After the battle, Linda met with Admiral Foster and the fleet commanders. "This proves my theory," she said. "We can do more than protect stars. We can save them. With enough ships and enough power, we could start reclaiming the systems that were lost." Admiral Foster nodded, already planning the next phase. "We'll need more light carriers, and we'll need to teach other species how to use this technology." "They may not be able to," Linda replied. "Something about human consciousness makes this possible, but we can be there to help them, to protect them while they find their own ways to fight back." As the meeting ended, Hayes looked out at Alpha Centauri, still shining bright in the darkness. They had won their first major battle against the dark tide, but he knew this was just the beginning. The real war was still ahead. But now they had more than just hope. They had proof that the darkness could be beaten. Humanity had taken its first step toward reclaiming the stars, and they weren't planning to stop until every stolen light was burning bright again. Captain David Chen stood on the bridge of the light carrier Phoenix, watching his crew prepare for their most daring mission yet. They were about to attempt something no one had ever done before: restore a completely darkened star system. "All systems ready, Captain," his first officer reported. "Dr. Wilson's star restoration equipment is at full power." David nodded, his face reflecting the soft blue glow of the ship's controls. Around the Phoenix, 5 other light carriers moved into position. They had chosen the Barnard star system for their first restoration attempt. It had been one of the first stars to fall to the dark tide. "Remember," Dr. Linda Wilson's voice came through the comm system from Earth, "the process has to be perfect. Too much power too quickly could cause the star to go supernova." David touched the small pendant around his neck, a gift from his daughter, who had told him to bring back the stars. He intended to keep that promise. "All ships, begin the restoration sequence," he ordered. The 6 light carriers formed a perfect hexagon around the dead star. Their energy shields expanded, connecting to form a massive containment field. From each ship, streams of stored stellar energy began to flow toward the dark center of the system. The energy was infused with the unique pattern of human brainwaves that seemed to repel the dark tide. "Dark tide presence detected," one of his officers called out. "It's trying to interfere with the process." David had expected this. The dark tide had shown signs of intelligence before, and it wouldn't give up its conquered territory easily. "Activate the secondary shields," he commanded. "Channel all auxiliary power to the containment field." The darkness swirled around them, trying to find a way through their defenses. But humanity had learned from their previous battles. The shields held firm. In the center of their formation, something amazing began to happen. The dead star started to glow. First just a faint red, then brighter and brighter as more energy flowed into it. "It's working," someone shouted. "Stellar fusion is restarting." David watched in awe as Barnard's star came back to life. The dark tide retreated from the growing light, seemingly unable to maintain its hold in the face of the reborn star. "All ships, begin Phase 2, David ordered. His crew activated the new light seed devices, technology that would help the star maintain its fusion reaction even after they left. Back on Earth, in the main control room, Linda Wilson jumped from her chair in excitement as the data came in. "They did it. The star is stable." The room erupted in cheers. Representatives from 7 major alien civilizations watched in amazement. What they had thought impossible had just been achieved. Admiral Foster immediately called a meeting with the alien leaders. "This is just the beginning," she told them. "We can restore more systems. We can take back what the dark tide stole." The aliens, who had been skeptical of humanity's aggressive approach to fighting the dark tide, now looked at the humans with new respect. One of them, a tall being made of shifting colors, stepped forward. Our people have hidden and run for so long, it said. We forgot there was another choice. We will join your counteroffensive. Over the next few weeks, alien ships began integrating human shield technology into their vessels. They couldn't generate the same brainwave patterns that made humans so effective against the dark tide, but they could support the light carriers in other ways. On the Phoenix, David received new orders from Admiral Foster. His success had earned him command of the first joint human-alien fleet. Their mission: restore an entire star cluster. Look at this, his science officer said, showing him a new scan. Every star we restore weakens the dark tide's hold on nearby systems. It's like we're creating islands of light in the darkness. David smiled, touching his pendant again. That's exactly what we're doing. And those islands are going to keep growing until there's no darkness left. As the Phoenix prepared to lead its fleet to their next target, David thought about how far humanity had come. Just months ago, they had been scrambling to defend their own star. Now they were teaching the galaxy how to fight back, how to reclaim what was lost. The stars were coming back to life, one by one, and humanity was leading the charge. The darkness had made a serious mistake when it threatened Earth's sun. It had awakened a species that didn't know how to give up, even against impossible odds. And now, that determination was spreading to other species, creating the first real hope the galaxy had seen since the stars began to fade. Commander Rachel Morris stood at the center of Earth's largest space station, looking at the massive holographic display of the Milky Way. The map showed thousands of stars, blue dots for living stars, red for those taken by the dark tide, and green for the ones humanity had restored. Operation Daybreak was about to begin. All fleet commanders, report in, she called out. The responses came not just from human captains, but from leaders of 7 alien species who had joined Earth's fight against the darkness. This is the largest operation we've ever attempted, Rachel told the assembled fleet. We're going to push back the dark tide across an entire spiral arm of the galaxy. Dr. Emma Collins, who had first discovered the threat many months ago, stepped forward with new information. We've made an important discovery, she announced. The dark tide isn't just afraid of human brain patterns, it's being hurt by them. Every time we restore a star, the dark tide grows weaker. The alien commanders listened carefully. Many of them had fought the darkness for centuries without success, but humanity's stubborn refusal to give up had changed everything. Show them the new weapon, Rachel said to Emma. Emma pressed a button, and a new image appeared. It showed a device that looked like a satellite dish made of crystal and metal. We call it the Human Wave Projector, she explained. It broadcasts the same energy pattern that human brains produce, but much stronger. Early tests show it can push back the dark tide without needing a light carrier. All ships have been fitted with these devices, Rachel added. Today, we're not just defending or restoring, we're taking the fight directly to the enemy. The combined fleet was massive. Over 200 ships, including 50 human light carriers and vessels from all their alien allies. Each ship now carried both the new human wave projectors and star restoration technology. As the fleet prepared to jump to their first target, Rachel received a message from Admiral Foster back on Earth. Commander Morris, we've detected something strange. The dark tide is moving. It seems to be gathering its forces. It knows we're coming, Rachel realized. It's learning, adapting. But so are we. The fleet jumped into action, arriving at their first target, a cluster of dead stars near the galaxy's Perseus arm. The dark tide was waiting for them, a massive wall of pure darkness that seemed to swallow all light. All ships, activate human wave projectors, Rachel ordered. Light carriers, begin star restoration sequence. What followed was the largest battle against the darkness yet. The human wave projectors fired up, sending pulses of energy that made the dark tide recoil. Where the energy hit, the darkness began to break apart. It's working, one of the alien commanders reported. The dark tide is losing its hold on the star cluster. But the darkness wasn't giving up easily. It surged forward, trying to overwhelm their defenses. Several ships reported their shields were failing. Rachel made a quick decision. All ships form the Phoenix formation. This was a new battle pattern they had practiced, named after Captain Chen's famous first restoration mission. The fleet moved together, their ships creating a massive spiral pattern. As they moved, the human wave projectors synchronized, their energy combining into one powerful beam. The effect was immediate and stunning. The dark tide wasn't just pushed back, it was torn apart. In the space it left behind, the light carriers began their work, restoring star after star. "Look at the readings," Emma called out excitedly. "The restored stars are creating a chain reaction. Their light is helping to push back the darkness even further." For hours, the battle continued. Ship by ship, star by star, the combined fleet pushed forward. The dark tide fought back, but it couldn't match the determination of the united species fighting against it. By the time the operation was complete, 30 stars had been restored, and a huge section of the dark tide had been destroyed. It was humanity's biggest victory yet. As the fleet regrouped, Rachel received messages from dozens of other species who had watched the battle from afar. They wanted to join the fight, to learn from the humans who had found a way to defeat the darkness. "We're not just restoring stars anymore," Rachel told her crew. "We're teaching the galaxy how to hope again, how to fight back." She looked at the updated map, where more green dots now shone where darkness had been. The dark tide was still strong, but for the first time, it was running scared. Humanity had shown the way, and the rest of the galaxy was following their lead. The guardians of the galaxy had proven themselves, and their light was only growing stronger. The massive fleet of combined human and alien ships approached the galactic core, where the dark tide had gathered its remaining strength. After months of battles and victories, this would be the final confrontation. Dr. Emma Collins, who had first spotted the dying stars so long ago, now stood on the bridge of humanity's newest and most powerful ship, the Star Phoenix. "The dark tide has nowhere else to run." Admiral Foster's voice came through the comm system. "It's concentrated all its remaining power in the core. This is our chance to end this once and for all." Engineer Peter Martinez, standing next to Emma, made final adjustments to their secret weapon, the Solar Phoenix Protocol. It had taken every bit of knowledge they'd gained about the dark tide to create it. "All ships report ready," Captain David Chen announced from his position leading the light carrier fleet. "The alien forces are in position." The dark tide they faced now was different from what they'd first encountered. It had shrunk, but grown denser, more dangerous. It swirled around the core stars like an angry storm, occasional tendrils of darkness lashing out at the approaching fleet. "Begin Phase 1, Admiral Foster commanded. The fleet split into 3 layers. The outer ring was made up of alien ships, their enhanced shields ready to protect the others. The middle ring consisted of light carriers, their human wave projectors powered up to maximum. The Star Phoenix took the center position, carrying their last hope for complete victory. The dark tide struck first, sending massive waves of energy-draining force against their lines. But humanity had learned from every previous battle. The shields held strong. "Launch the human wave barrage," Emma ordered. Every ship activated their projectors at once, creating a massive web of energy that the dark tide couldn't escape. The darkness writhed and fought back, but something was different this time. "Look," Peter pointed at his readings. "The dark tide, it's not just energy. There's something at its center." Emma quickly analyzed the data. "It's like a heart or a brain. This is what's been controlling it all along." As if knowing it had been discovered, the dark tide launched its strongest attack yet. Several alien ships reported shield failures. The light carriers moved to support them, but the darkness was pressing in from all sides. "Now, Peter," Emma shouted, "activate the Solar Phoenix." Peter pressed his hand against the activation panel. The device they'd spent months building hummed to life. It combined everything they'd learned: the energy storage systems, the human wave technology, and something new, the power to convert darkness back into light. The Star Phoenix's hull began to glow, brighter and brighter, until it rivaled the core stars themselves. Streams of pure light shot out from the ship, forming the shape of a massive phoenix made of solar fire. "All ships, channel your power to the Phoenix," Admiral Foster commanded. Every vessel in the fleet directed their energy toward the glowing ship. The effect was immediate and stunning. The light phoenix grew larger, its wings spreading across space. Where it touched the dark tide, the darkness didn't just retreat. It transformed, turning back into pure stellar energy. "It's working," Emma exclaimed. "The darkness is converting back to its original form." The dark tide tried to fight back, but it was too late. The light phoenix reached its center, the heart of the entity that had threatened the galaxy. There was a moment of absolute silence, then a flash so bright that every ship's windows had to darken to protect their crews. When the light faded, the dark tide was gone. In its place, dozens of new stars burned bright, born from the transformed darkness. "All ships report," Admiral Foster called out. "What's your status?" One by one, the fleet responded. They had losses, but they had won. The dark tide was no more. In the days that followed, the news spread across the galaxy. Species that had hidden in fear for centuries emerged to reclaim their homes. The restored stars burned bright, and the knowledge of how to protect them spread to every civilization. On the observation deck of the Star Phoenix, Emma stood with Peter and David, watching the new stars shine. "What happens now?" Peter asked. Admiral Foster joined them, her uniform bearing a new symbol, the phoenix that now represented the combined fleet. "Now we make sure this never happens again. Earth is establishing the Interstellar Protection Force. We'll help guard the galaxy, teach others to defend themselves, and keep watching the stars." Emma smiled as she looked out at the bright core of the galaxy. Humanity had done more than save the stars. They had united the galaxy, turned an ancient enemy into new light, and shown that even the darkest night could be overcome. The stars would never fade again. Humanity, and the allies they had gathered, would make sure of that.